Yeah, as a young boy, I was always my love for digital and tech kind of stems from at the time my love for video games and computer games and computers. That was a very common thing back then. Everyone was into it, and it kind of stemmed from there. And I found myself, you know, gravitating more towards technology and digital. And I kind of always had an affinity for that side of things, but my role as a software engineer, specifically, admittedly through high school, I didn't envision myself being an engineer, and I actually didn't know what engineering was entirely. And it actually wasn't until two Māori from the University of Auckland, they came down and they did a presentation about engineering and what it was, and it really opened my eyes towards how broad of a discipline engineering is and all the areas you can touch. And I kind of put a challenge on myself, and I was like, maybe this is something I could do. And there was one thing that they talked about around a misrepresentation of Māori and Pacific in engineering. And so I focused on that a bit, and I asked the question to myself, and I said, why is that not a pathway that Māori and Pacific see themselves in? And I think one of the key things was that there weren't any role models to look up to back then. The role models that we looked up to were, the Māori and Pacific and the All Blacks, or sports stars. And so I put that challenge on myself to say, I'm going to do this, and I want to be that person for our young rangatahi to look up to. And so that's kind of where that's been the big driving force towards propelling me towards where I am now. What really excites me about the world of tech is that technology is always advancing, it's always progressing, and that aspect of learning new things and constantly learning and keeping up to date, and innovation, keyword, that's the part that really excites me the most. Yeah, so digital is essentially an enabler. So it touches so many areas, so many industries, and there's so many opportunities with working with different people, and touching the lives of many, I think, and that's another cool thing that I love about tech. So I think one of the biggest challenges, I think, for a lot of Māori and Pacific is when they kind of look at digital being potentially a pathway that they'd like to pursue. A lot of the times they don't see themselves or their way of life reflected, and I think when you kind of go into the industry, sometimes it can feel like you need to leave who you are at the doorstep day to day. So I think it's scarce enough as it is in terms of numbers and representation, and there's not many to look up to, but if no one takes that step, then nothing's going to change. So essentially someone's got to take that step. So there's actually a lot of concepts within Mātauranga Māori that align with many of the concepts and principles within STEM. And I think when you're trying to present or explain to young Māori the digital and tech world, I think being able to weave in some of those concepts within that delivery would be a lot more digestible for them. So things like weaving in storytelling elements, pūrākau, Māori myths and legends, those are stories that we've been told as kids, and we know them to this day, and there's many lessons and concepts that you can pull from those stories that also link in with the world of STEM. And I think if you deliver it that way, I feel like they'd be able to resonate and relate to that a lot more. Yeah, so recently I was part of a leadership program, the Mahuri Leadership Program, run by Indigenous Growth Limited, and the idea behind that was to empower our kaimahi Māori at Beca to take up leadership roles. So, it's Māori and Pacific don't tend to put their hands up a lot for those leadership roles and positions, and I guess with this program it was a very life-changing experience for myself and obviously many others of the attendees. And the person that I was before that program compared to the person now, I'm a totally different person, and many of us have actually now taken that step to putting our hands up and moving towards those leadership roles. So.